Sneaking up behind me here, Ben, is our guest for today. But before we introduce,
jump right into that.
I know I don't like to jump right in.
No, longtime listeners will know that Keith likes to banter.
I like to delay. This is actually my technique for business meetings also. When I go into even a pitch, I like to be pulled kicking and screaming into talking about business. I like to talk about weather, traffic, how shitty Trump is, your kids, what you're wearing that day.
Hair, all of the things.
Right?
How do your business associates feel about that? Are they like, yeah? Because I like a couple of those, but then I'm ready to get to it.
So recently, our agents were like, go in, be so business. And then I was like, the woman asked me about my hair. I got a haircut.
Okay.
And I was saying, oh, yes. And then my colleague jumped right in. Later, we got the feedback that the meeting felt too transactional. You see? You see?
It's funny. There's no one way to do things.
That's right.
I think that's the lesson.
Yeah.
It's like there's just when you think you haven't figured out.
There's no one way to do things is also a good lesson for this episode because, the way we like to do things is go for a walk around the beautiful neighborhoods of Austin and take our guest who is visiting from New York into the neighborhoods, down onto the trail, talk about the trees, the birds, the people.
Well, why aren't we doing that today, Keith?
Well, if only we could figure it out. You can hear the pitter-patter of raindrops if you're listening to the show right now. And you can see, even though it's a bright, clear day, here on, I think, is it May 1st?
May 1st today.
May 1st as we're recording, but it is a rainy May.
A rainy May day. And I'm a bird watcher, so I'm really unhappy about this.
You're a bird watcher.
Yes.
But you live in Brooklyn.
We have a lot of birds. Yes, we have sparrows and crabitos and robins.
Just flying amongst the buildings.
Hey, you people in the South, we have a lot of birds. We have
But you live in
dogs.
Brooklyn.
Yes.
Well,
Do they have trees to roost in?
Well, they actually don't have that many trees to roost in.
There's a very famous book called
There are
A
some.
Tree Grows in Brooklyn.
And there are many trees for those. There are many trees in New York for those.
That's right.
birds.
I mean, listen, I'm not a total rube. I've seen Penny Lane's new documentary about, what's the owl's name? It's a great name. It's
I forgot that. Yeah.
I don't know. We have an owl that lives in our backyard named Olivia.
and it's FLACO. FLACO the owl.
Yes.
And I saw how New York fell in love with FLACO and all the bird watchers that live in New York. I understand. However,
We have ravens.
I mean, look at all the trees that we have here, and I just know from going to New York,
have
there's not
famous
quite
parks
as many.
that, all over the place and
Well-
also famous parks and green spaces.
They have birds in Brooklyn. We have here in Austin
Yeah.
special guests. And today's special guest was that a hell of a segue,
That
right?
was a great transition. Wait a second, did we talk enough personal?
Sure.
Yeah. I don't want to be too transactional about
It's
this.
about birds, so
You
sure.
can't go wrong when you talk about birds.
Yes, you can actually. This guy is trying to.
Ben
make
is
this a
anti-bird.
I just don't want our podcast to be about birds.
Do you know what the pilot episode of this podcast is called, Alisa?
What?
Two dipshits talking about birds.
That's hilarious. I will tell you, this is the last thing we're going to say about birds maybe. I have this great app that you can identify the birds by the sounds, even if you don't see them.
Oh, have you seen the documentary Listers?
I did not. I will.
That is about two
Dipshits talking about birds.
Two dipshits who go out to try to have a big year, like in the birding community. Do you know what that is?
Yeah.
Yeah, where you try to see as many species as possible.
yeah.
They are not bird watchers. They become bird watchers through the experience of making this film. And they use that app, I think, to identify, what's it called?
Are we promoting these things?
No.
It's Merlin.
Merlin.
The Merlin.
Okay.
Sponsorship from Merlin pending.
I agree. That should really happen, especially since you wanted to name it Two Dipshits Talking About Birds.
There you go. Well, there are two dipshits. We're talking about birds, but we're not going to be talking about birds much longer because what we are going to be talking about is the stellar career, the insights, the thoughts, the processes, and the philosophies of our special guest. Ladies and gentlemen, meet Alisa Payne here in Austin for the annual Austin Film Society Doc Intensive. She is a mentor extraordinaire. And I have enjoyed the 24 hours that we've got to know each other so far. We got 36 more to go in the Doc Intensive, which is happening right here inside this building, Austin Public. So even though it's a rainy day and we can't go for the walk around the neighborhood we want to go to, we're going to take you into the belly of the Austin Film Society Doc Intensive. Well, before it kicks off the rest of the morning, we're going to beat the guest to the breakfast tacos and we're going to find a spot inside.
That's right.
Does that sound right?
Yeah.
That sounds great. So Riley, cue the music.
Do 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 do.
On your left,
You're listening to Doc Walks with Ben and Keith. Here because about half of our audience is podcast listeners and half are podcast watchers.
Well, first and foremost, I want to say thank you so much for having me.
To Sharon Arteaga. Yes. Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you so much. That's Sharon. So we're in the lobby area and we are seeing the sitting area as well as we're headed down the hall to Studio One. Studio One seems to be a podcast studio, if I'm correct.
Well, it's about to be, I think.
I think it's a...
No, it's a TV studio.
Let's see.
Yeah. There is a little podcast.
Yeah.
No, this is the Hair and Makeup.
Makeup room,
right?
which I was quite impressed with. Very expensive.
And this is like, I guess, the control room for Studio One.
Yeah.
So, you know, this facility, Austin Public, is the original and still ongoing public access TV station for Austin.
I love this. On our itinerary, it said public access. So I was like, okay, that must be it. And this is where we spend our days here, giving notes and exchanging ideas in the mentorship.
Yeah, this is the Doc Intensive room.
Doc Intensive.
So we're focused on 4 emerging filmmakers projects, 3 features and a short. And I am very pleased. This is an annual event that
You created. You helped.
I helped co-found, with Megan Gilbride. We pitched it to Austin Film Society after we had incredible experiences at the Tribeca Film Lab.
Yeah, and also based a little bit on the Sundance lab too.
But I've never been to the Sundance lab, so I mean, it's not really based on that because I don't know what they're up to up there in the mountains. There you go.
I've been to Sundance.
There you
but
go.
not to their labs.
Ben and I just walked up and down Main Street harassing people with these little cameras every year.
We filmed our film that we'll talk about later.
We sure will talk about it.
Yes, we will.
Sundance 2025.
You guys took Sundance by storm in 25, right?
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. Yeah, we're talking about the Film Society and Doc Intensive.
That's right. But the Doc Intensive, this room will be filled with emerging filmmakers and mentors. This year we've got Alisa here from New York. We've got Yoni Golyov, who is here, just presented the film he produced last night at the AFS Cinema for Doc Days.
We Move America.
We Move America. Who Moves America?
Who Moves America.
And we also had the Polish filmmaker Michael Marsek in the room with us.
Yeah.
This is Darianne.
She's making sure all the media works. Thank you, Darianne.
Thank you, Darianne. You can see Doug in there getting the breakfast taco set up.
Studio 2.
Let's check out Studio 2.
I'm so excited
Slacker
about
poster
this.
here, which
Well, Studio 2 is locked.
Oh, well then we locked.
Anticlimactic.
The rest of this is probably going to be locked
Probably
up.
locked. Yeah, we're here early to do
Doug,
this.
is it possible to get into Studio 2 or 3?
thanks, Doug.
Okay, Doug is letting us into Studio 3. Shout out to Doug for giving me an AFS journal that I really appreciate. Thank you so much, Doug. I
look at this.
You, I collect journals.
You know, I could go get the tripods, the little base tripods out of the video. We could.
Yeah, that is a good idea.
do
Yeah,
Let's do that.
Doug,
I'll tell you what.
Studio, I think he opened up.
Oh,
Is this
nice.
studio? Okay.
Tell you what, why don't you grab that? Elisa and
gonna
I will
go to
just take
Studio
them little
Okay.
ganders.
This is you filming me.
That's right. It's very meta.
Yeah, it's very meta. And now
there's
we're
layers.
going to Studio 2.
You know, the other most famous lore of this place is this studio is where Alex Jones got his whole start.
Yeah.
Like
Wow.
the Alex Jones, conspiracy theorist and massive provocateur.
Yes.
That was here in Studio 2. But you can smell. What I feel like I could smell like Axe body spray and supplements.
And rage.
Supplement.
Yeah.
Anger. Look at this.
What's great for me is the studio that we do the intensive in that we already walked in Studio 1.
Yeah.
For my last film, Dear Mr. Brody, we used that studio for our formal interviews, and it was awesome because my house is about 8 blocks from here.
Oh, wow.
And we had been chasing interviews around the country, and we were bringing a backdrop to all different studios, and just found there's a lot of black box studios around the country. And then we realized we have a great and very inexpensive one in our own backyard, and it was cheaper to fly the people to us than to fly our crew to them.
Yeah.
So I was jumping because this reminds me of my film Stamp from the Beginning.
Yeah. Roger Ross Williams.
Roger Ross Williams directed. I produced it along with David Teague. Roger had seen The Mandalorian, and he's like, Alisa, I want to do that. We're going to make it immersive. We're going to do all the things. I'm like, Roger, The Mandalorian is like $50 million for that curved LED wall, right? So we're going to figure it out. So My line producer, Butch Robinson, that I just talked about, who tells me to remember the camera, and I always forget it, says, okay, we're going to get a place. We found this studio in Hoboken. I forget the name. We paint the walls green. We're doing all this stuff. We're going to do all these backgrounds. We're filming. It's green screen. We're paying all the fees. We have to keep it green. They want someone else to come in. No, we're going to pay the penalty so the people can't come in. This is during COVID. So it's 2021. We filmed, and the people at Netflix call me. They say, Alisa, I think you need to shut down production because a lot of our productions are getting COVID. Like, it's just running rampant. I'm like, we're getting all these fees because if I do that, one, I'm not going to get the money back. I have the studio on hold. We've been painting we painted the wall. These other people will have to paint it back white and paint it back. I'm going through this whole thing. So finally I decided, Alisa, what are you fighting it for? Just let it go. 2 days later, there is a snowstorm. And the grid, like this, except for much bigger, the lighting grid, the snow caves the whole ceiling in.
Wow.
And right where we're sitting, like normally where the director's chair is and I'm there on the back row, completely damaged.
Wow. Right.
And they tried not to let me out of that contract, but no way. No way. And so then we had to move to a place in Brooklyn that was so much money. And every night we had to repaint it white, the next day paint it green. And let me tell you, the final of this, do you know what the background ended up being for those interviews?
White.
Black. A black background that Butch created. We did none of what we said we were going to do. So I guess it wasn't the Mandalorian.
Super producer, Alisa Payne, walking us through her process.
And
so,
that might be the name of your episode. It wasn't the Mandalorian.
It wasn't the Mandalorian.
It wasn't the Mandalorian.
If you're not already aware of Alisa's incredible IMDb rundown, her filmography, her stats, you probably know her best from last year's super success, Oscar nominated, The Perfect Neighbor. That film premiered at Sundance in 2025. That was when Ben and I were at Sundance for the first time with the podcast. It was almost our first episode.
Oh, really?
And
that's right.
I wish I
people
knew
were talking
all that.
about, I know. And then this year,
all the rage.
and then this year at Sundance, we were there right when you all were nominated. And we bumped into Geeta and another male producer. I can't remember his name.
Sam Bisbee?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
And we were with Julie Goldman and Chris Clements, so we bumped into them at the Marriott while we were filming. I wonder if there was a whole gaggle of people standing there. I wonder if you were one of them.
The Perfect Neighbor team is Geeta Gandbhir, my director.
Yeah.
Sam Bisbee is one of our producers and partners from Park Pictures. Nakan Kwantu is Geeta's partner in life, her husband, as well as our producer, and myself. And the story started because Nakan, her husband, it was her cousin, Nakan's cousin's best friend who was the victim. And so we knew about that about a day after, the next day after it happened. And we always say that we wish that we didn't have to tell that story, but we are, sublimely pleased about how it was received. And we hope that we hear all the time that it stays with people, and so we hope that then they go out and make change. And I think we're in a moment now where everybody wants to know what to do.
Right.
Right? Like, we're in that moment, and so it's time to, lobby against policies that are hurting people.
And the policy at the heart of The Perfect Neighbor is stand your ground, which, of course, became famous, at least to me, with the Trayvon Martin.
Yeah.
And is still, it's about every couple months there's a new case.
Yeah.
And in Perfect Neighbor, not only was, a different case than Trayvon Martin, a unique scenario, but uniquely rendered because as somebody who loves people who push the form, as somebody who loves talking about innovation and documentary,
yes.
that's a film that is not content to try and do recreations, which some people would have done.
Yeah.
It's not content to settle into like a spoken word interview based, and it's not a journalistic kind of like news exploration of things.
Yeah.
It is a bold reconsideration of material that was created for a different purpose, but put to the purpose of documentary storytelling. And what I'm roundabout way getting at is it's the body cam footage. So if you are in the listening audience, we are in a podcast studio like some bro-tastic podcast. We've done some doc sits. We did doc sits with Diane Kwan
Okay.
because it was just too cold at Sundance. And
I mean, I'm happy to walk around outside and let's see to find some birds later.
yeah,
Yeah. So the good?
I think let's sit down. You're very tall. We'll see if you are still in frame. Okay, good.
Yes.
Okay, so I want to get into Perfect Neighbor, but before, let's just do a quick list off so people don't know. You know, you didn't burst on the scene fully formed with the Perfect Neighbor.
Yes.
Before the Perfect Neighbor, you already mentioned Stamped.
Yeah, Sam from the beginning.
With
So,
Roger Ross Williams.
yeah, it took me 20 years to be an overnight success. I actually started, well, I went to school for biochemistry, and I was a biochemistry out of college. About 6 months after college, I was just so disenchanted. I was the only woman, the only Black person, the only young person, the only person that wasn't married. The men in the lab would come to me and say, why did my wife do something? And I'm like, sir, I don't know. I'm hardly a woman. Find someone with kids and actual, like, you know, a husband or at least a steady boyfriend, and then come, you know, ask me that. And I saw Queen Latifah on a talk show
Yeah.
after Saturday Night Live.
What year was this around?
This was 1998.
Okay. Year I graduated college.
Yeah. She was saying that she was going to do this show, or 99, she was going to do this show. By the time I got there, it was 99. But she was going to do this show that was going to take from the rich and give to the poor. It was going to be for young people. She wanted to change the lives of young people. And I was like, that's what I need to be doing. I'm going to change the world with the Queen. And I wake up the next morning early. I tell my parents, this is what I'm going to do. And my dad is like, Alisa, that's not a real job. No immigrant, we're from Grenada in the West Indies, no immigrant wants their child to come home and say they're not going to be a doctor. They're going to go into television.
Right.
And he said, that is not a real job.
Mm-hmm. Can I just stop you there and also reassure you that I don't think any parent wants to hear that.
Yes.
When I told my mom I was going to be a filmmaker, she started to cry and told me that I was going to manage a Blockbuster video.
Oh.
Someday, Ben. Just keep your hopes up.
Well, Blockbuster's not around anymore.
I
but
know.
I still am.
You are. That's true. That's true. And my mom said, well, Lisa, that's the type of job that you need to know people to survive in. And I can't say it in a fresh way, and I didn't, but I said, well, one day I will be the person that people know. And so I feel like I hope that I'm keeping my word and doing mentorships and, you know, other things like that. Fast forward, I'm doing my first documentary. So I started to work on her show.
I wanted to work with Queen Latifah, so I started to work with Queen Latifah.
Well, no. So back then on a talk show, they used to have this thing called carts. They would run a little ad and say, if you want to reunite with a family member, call 800 QL,
Right.
you know, show or something.
There was like
that.
casting for
Yeah,
the show.
exactly.
Yeah.
But on the television. And so I had all my friends from college and myself, we were calling. And while I was doing that, I was going to my university, standing on the corner, going to the corners on New York, trying to change the time of her show with a petition. Because I'm like, if she is trying to have a show for young people, why is her show on at 9 a.m. in the morning when children are in school?
Right.
So, you know, again, naive. So finally, one day I call, someone answers, do you need to reunite with a family member? I'm like, no, I know my family. I just want to work for the Queen. They're like, okay, wait, hold on. Who's this? You know, some intern answering the call. Hold on. Someone comes back. I say hi, you know, I graduated college. You know, they say, come in for an interview. I come in. I'm dressed like a scientist. I have on my little suit. I also have like stacks of paper. I think I had like 500 petitions. There's like a huge stack like this. I come in and I will never forget Chris Mealy, who is the production manager at the time. He went on to do Ellen, etc. I think he was just constantly laughing at me because he's like, this girl. Like, I was just like, you know, so idealistic. I'm going to change the world with the Queen. I have these 500 petitions that I'm acting like it's going to do something. He told me later he threw those petitions away in the trash. But he waited till, like, I knew. I remember going to my dad. So they hire me. I become like, I'm now on the phones doing carts, right? Answering other people's calls. I go to my dad one day and I say, Dad, it is the strangest thing. They're all wearing black all day long. And he says, you keep wearing your colors.
small note for our listening audience. Ben is wearing a green sweatshirt.
Yes.
Keith is wearing a black t-shirt.
Alisa is wearing a black.
What did she wear yesterday? A black.
Yeah, black on black. Today I have on gray pants.
That's just being a stylish New Yorker, I think.
I
But
think
but the reason to wear all black in
Yes.
production is so that you blend in. And you
Exactly.
don't. Yes.
And also,
in the
it's
background.
slimming, and some of us need that.
I definitely
I don't think that's why they do it.
But-
They're for-
but yeah, no,
so you can feel confident while you're on.
That's exactly right. That's exactly. And also because I spill things all over myself constantly.
Because you wear black on set, do you have like, is your closet just full of black?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I remember about 20 years ago, my friend saying, because I used to wear my hair in braids, in 2 braids, saying, you know who you look like? Who? Wednesday Addams. And so now that the show is so popular, I'm like, okay, every time I see her, I just crack up. But I do, Dad, I did listen to you. I have a lot of color too, but I have a whole huge swath of just black. Mostly things that are folded. And then like my blazers and stuff are green and other colors.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
good. Little accents.
Yeah, I try. I was like, should I bring, even here, should I bring the green blazer or the tan blazer? Alas, the tan one.
The tan one?
Yeah.
Tan's having a real moment right now. This world has gone very beige, and it's like young people.
Tan.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
But
I
let's
like that you're thinking that I'm some sort of paragon of style.
South Austin dad mode over here.
That's right.
Yeah, so
So you start with Queen Latifah.
yeah, and in the summer, so I'm a production assistant. I'm not a producer. I don't have a contract. I'm for hire. They tell you when you walk into the door, there's a million people who'd want to be in your space. So, and I'm sure that's true. And so in the summers, I have to make ends meet. There are people who are going on unemployment. One of the EP's assistants said, she was in film school at Columbia, and she said, hey, I'm doing this documentary. I said, oh, what is it about? She says, it's about the gentrification of Harlem, and especially a focus on the businesses that are getting evicted. And I say, oh, I want to do that. And so a scrappy 3 young woman team were in the streets of Harlem, seeing the change. We go from what it was then, and we're starting to see people walking their dogs, and we go into this place, Mart 125, that's close to the Apollo Theater, the world famous Apollo Theater. We start to see and hear about all the methods that they're using that we're seeing now. We're hearing a lot about deed theft and other things that we're hearing about now in places like Brooklyn, etc. And we start to make a film about it. And so that was my first film. And it was great because I'm producing, but you know how it is. I'm sound, so I'm holding the boom. I'm doing all the things.
What would grab you like first about that feeling, especially in contrast to your scientific background?
So it's interesting because I feel like when I was on the talk show, I was just kind of learning the television stuff. But the thing about producing that I really love is it's problem solving at its best. And I always say to my team, I apply the scientific principles of being accurate and precise. And so I get really serious about like fact checking and even the words that I use and trying to so it uses the best parts of me. I worked on Between the World and Me for HBO. And I tell people all the time, I'm like, because we all have done something in COVID, but I say this is real COVID. Like, if I'm going to paint the picture. So in New York, in March of maybe around the mid-March in 2020, we were told that we had to shut the city down. So we were on lockdown.
Well, and wait a second, I just want to stop you because you didn't just work on that show. You were the showrunner.
Yeah,
of
well,
that show.
Between the World and Me was a film, but yeah, I was the producer. But here's the thing. So it's March. I get a call in June saying, Alisa, HBO is trying to do this adaptation of Ta-Nehisi Coates' book, Between the World and Me. This will be the second thing that has gone since COVID. However, the first thing was basically a show that they did via Zoom. At the time, it wasn't Zoom, but they did it like that. It was, I forget the name of the film, but it was like Bette Midler, Issa Rae. I forget what it was. But this was going to be, they called me and they said, this is really going to test your boundaries. And so think about it. I had worked with the director before, and they came to me, Camila Forbes, and they came to me and they said, we think that you have a particular skill set. And so in addition to the fact that we were going to June, literally up the street from me. I was in Bed-Stuy. I lived in Bed-Stuy. About 5 minutes down the street, like a 5-minute drive, is Brooklyn Hospital, and they're piling bodies up,
Right.
you know, in freezers.
Yeah, those refrigerated trucks.
So when I say this is the height of COVID, this is pre-vaccine. We weren't even talking about a vaccine. This is when we were just starting to figure out what PPE should really be
Right.
if you're going to be out. Right?
This is like wiping down your mail
Yeah,
and
this
not
is
going to the grocery
everything.
store.
Exactly.
and-
This
yeah.
is toilet paper shortage,
Yeah.
all of it. And they say, and in addition to this, because I'm like, yes, I'm like, I'm a New Yorker. I could, listen, and we can make it here. I could do this. And then they say, but also know that the director wants this to be on HBO to affect the election.
So the clock is ticking.
Yeah. And I'm like, this is the election with Biden and Trump. And they're like, so it has to be on air in November, at least, or maybe the end of October.
And this
I'm
is
like,
June?
yeah.
Wow.
And I'm the first person they're calling to hire.
Oh, geez.
So there's no other person. There was a writer who was adapting the book, David Teague, who was also a really great producer and editor and director. He's about to have a great project coming out. I say, okay. I talked to my husband. I said, okay, before. And they're like, okay, let's talk on, this is Friday. I was actually, this is the crazy part, I think juniors had just opened up and they were doing like delivery. And I was like, oh, my kids need a little treat. So I was going to get a cheesecake. And I got the call right there when I'm like in my mask and everything, double masked up. And I am happy to say that 16 weeks and 2 days later from the day I started, which was the following Monday, it was on the air and so beautiful. And this was a project that, you know, it's scripted, but it has social justice implications. So they didn't know, HBO didn't know how to categorize it. I don't think that we really knew how to categorize it. We did it with both the scripted people and the doc department, and the doc people were, I guess, this type of thing fell in their purview, kind of scrappy figuring it out. When I was in high school, I went to a school called Brooklyn Technical High School, right? One of the specialized high schools. I think it has it's biggest by number of students or something like that, right? It takes up a city block. And when I was back then at Brooklyn Tech, when you're in 10th grade, when you're a sophomore, you have to take technical drawing. And people in New York would always know Brooklyn Tech kids because you'd have this huge T-square back then sticking out of your bag. They no longer use the T-square. And I was just like, I don't even want to do architecture or engineering. My Brooklyn Tech technical drawing came into use on Between the Worlds and Me. I would have to do floor plans for HBO. And I would literally do to scale floor plans using not a T-square, but a regular ruler and showing egress pass and everything else.
Oh, for COVID
COVID,
precautions.
yeah.
Oh, wow.
Because we had celebrities. So we had Oprah,
Yeah.
we had Mahershala Ali, we had Felicia Rashad. The one that I did, the floor plan, we had Wendell Pierce, who ended up coming onto my future show, KATRINA Come Hell and High Water. But I would have to show HBO how we would get talent in, how many people, square footage wise, we could fit in there safely because they're, and the thing about that time too, we have to remember is that it was the heart of COVID. So the different regulations were changing.
Right.
And so,
And there was real fear too. I mean, you know, it's funny to think back now because we sort of have all been, I think, desensitized a little bit. But like in that moment, we were all, it felt like life and death.
And it was. And you would hear the stats of people dying. And so, and they kept changing it. And New York, because we're a port that a lot of people from overseas come into, right? We were having a lot of focus was on New York and regulations were changing. And so we're shooting this in 5 different cities, but the regulations would change and they wouldn't let New Yorkers in. So we're planning to go to LA. We have our tickets, etc. And then rightfully so, Gavin Newsom says, no, you need 14 days to quarantine. Well, my film has to be on, you know, right? That means that it has to be edited. It has to be, I always said I was in pre-production, production, and post all at once. My husband and I have a great director that I worked with on a show for Disney Plus called Harlem that always says, Samantha Knowles, and she says, you need to write a book. My husband and I would have shorthand. I would come in, we would go and film. I would come in, I would have the drives in my back pockets or my side pockets. I would leave them on the table at like 1 a.m. My husband would get up at 5 a.m. I'm sleeping till 6 a.m. He would take it to the AE's house, drop it in the mailbox with some PPE to clean it off. And then he would bring back, she would leave.
Yesterday's drains.
Yeah, there. He would bring it back. I will take it, put it in my pocket, and head to work at 7 a.m. And we did that. But it was the happiest time for me. That was the film that made me cross over from doing scrappy doc work, smaller projects, to becoming the overnight success, right? It was like I had worked with Camila on other things. I worked with Geeta on smaller things, Joe and Michelle on their...
Like the conversation, yeah.
Like reboot of that. All these smaller jobs that I would do, but that was the one that catapulted me. Roger Ross Williams was the EP on that, and he saw how I was able to handle it. Like we would be on set in a New York City walk-up in hazmat suits, hardly able to breathe, like with the big shield and the full PPE. There's a story about me on the set where, you know, we couldn't have security. We have this really great DP who does a lot of scripted, Christine Eng, and so she had to have all of her things. Like she just, and because again, it was scripted, she really wanted all of her things. And so we had these huge trucks. We went to this walk up. HBO was like, listen, Alisa, you guys have to rotate out. We need that because I did the floor plan, the square footage.
Wow.
But we didn't have enough people. We were getting, every 2 days, there would be, it looked like a drug deal. There would be a doctor who drives up with his van and he puts up the back and he's swabbing us outside on the street.
Right.
Until we ended up getting a new doctor because he was so rough. And my director was like, Alisa, I can't take it.
Yeah. So roughly swabbing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Roughly swabbing.
Yes.
Like, okay. All right.
Another great episode title, Roughly Swabbing.
We're rotating. I'm trying to give everybody, we're in this walk up in Harlem. I'm outside. We have like the PA watching the chalk and we're like rotating. The director's in, audio, cameras kind of outside. Like cameras in, audio's out. Like we're figuring out the choreography. I come down and the PD is shaking. I'm like, what's happening? He can't talk. I'm like, what's happening? He's like, they stole the PPE. I'm like, who? Some guys.
The streets came for it.
I'm like, where did they go? He's like, I go into the bodega where he points. I see some young Latino guys handing over, like, I'm like, how? First of all, I think I got there within like 3 minutes. The guy in the boat, how did they bag it up? I'm like, what's happening? So he's handing the guy in the bodega all of our PPE, because we have a ton, like on a table outside. They bagged this up. I don't know where they got the bags from. I see them handing their final bag of hand sanitizer over. And I'm like, give me back my PPE.
That's the title.
And he's like, what? I said, you took my PPE and I need it back. And he's like, I'll go and take all of your gear too, or your stuff. And I was like, over my dead body. And I looked him in the eye, and he was like the ringleader, and he had like 4 friends. And the bodega guy there was like holding his breath, like you, Ben, holding his breath. And I'm like, serious? And we're like gonna stare down, and he says, you remind me of my mother. And I was like, great, give me my damn PPE. I did not realize how much PPE we had and how quickly they stole this PPE. They start handing me it's a 6-foot table. I walk out, I have bags up my arms and in my hands, and I put it there, and they're like, Alisa, only you. right? Only you.
You know what's amazing about this story is that you are lighting up telling this
This
like
is hilarious. This is production.
Well, that's what-
but that's what makes you a great producer is like you are describing this like horrific problematic scenario and you're loving it.
I mean, they were young teenagers.
She loves problem solving, and this is like this is a human to human problem, and there's an obstacle, and you're going to overcome that obstacle and get back to work.
And that's the thing, you know, is I always tell people producing is like mothering in so many ways. Like when I talk to young children and they say, well, what do a producer do? I went to this class. It was a 2nd grade class. The hardest interview I ever did. One of the kids said, I have a question in 3 parts. I'm like, oh, Lord. And then they're like massaging me. And I'm like, wait, this is 2nd grade? What? But I explained to them, I'm the parent of everybody in the credits. That's my job.
I love that
I
description.
refer myself to chief emotions officer because a lot of it is emotions. You know, I pull the person aside on Between the Worlds and Me. Hey, the director comes, what's that about? Just emotions.
Yeah.
But it's problem solving. It's like I said, my son, when he was young, he'd be like, you notice how I would get everything I want from my family members and Santa without any duplicates?
Did you notice?
Yeah.
Clock that.
Yeah, he was like 7. And that's the thing. It's like producers are the elves that work in, you know, that we're making the shoes, right? At the end of the night, and no one knows a lot that happens. I always say that my vantage point on if directors actually knew about their film,
Right.
they usually don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I
Your
tell
job
them
is
a
to
lot.
shield
Yeah.
them from
Exactly.
yes, from a lot of that
I
chaos.
keep them in a bubble.
And I have to say, like, so yesterday we were doing a panel together and we were talking about knowing your audience. We were doing a panel before that and we were talking about pitching. And sitting next to Alisa and Megan was on the panel, and then you know, Michael Marsack, Dev Eskenazi, two directors and 2 producers. And what I noticed is all the directors were talking about the emotion that they feel and what matters to them in presenting their film. And the producers were talking about what the executives need to understand and what the audience will gain from it. And I realized, like, in that moment, like, what a great partnership it is to be a director with a strong producer.
Yeah.
Because a strong producer doesn't just bow down to the needs of the director. The strong producer matches that energy and says, you handle these corner, but I am totally taking care of these other things. And
like a translator almost. Like the producer is like translating to the outside world why this matters.
But it's more than a translator because they're also adding, they're additive in their own way. Like they have the perspective. That's what I was seeing is like, because Megan asked me, like, and she and I work together every day, and she says to me, you know, how do you talk to executives about audience? And I'm like, I don't give a shit about the audience. Like, I care about me. Like, I have a thing to say. And like, I assume the audience, like, if I'm authentic and I believe in it and I'm committed, the audience will be there. That's my instinct.
Right.
And both Megan and Lisa are like, that's not a good enough answer.
I smiled at her and she said that. You know, the director-producer partnership, done well, allows for both people to be creative.
Yeah.
But it also, I always say I'm a director's producer, so I like to create a bubble so you can go and do this thing. Ultimately, it's the producer's job to deliver it. If you don't do that thing, there's nothing to deliver.
Right.
So we should keep you free and clear, but also give you, there's parameters around it. If capitalism didn't ruin everything, there would be no parameters. However, we have to work within systems, and there are limitations and, you know, budget, schedule, all of the things. And, you know, it's so, I think, I always joke because people are thinking that the evil producers sit in the background doing this all day. You want to say no. I think for me, it's really trying to figure out how I can say, and, well, this will probably be challenging to do, and we'll figure out a way to do it, right? I think it's trying to manage expectations of all.
Yeah.
And I also told a story yesterday where I was saying, I think that oftentimes directors don't know. Sometimes I get the notes from execs and I edit them. I respond to every note, but I won't necessarily send those notes. I'll talk to the director about it, or some directors I don't even talk about it because I know that will infuriate them. I'm not sending these notes, and I don't want it to be, especially on a first cut, a rough cut, or an assembly, for them to have to start thinking about like feedback when you're still working your way through it. And I think that that's what a producer really does well.
Yeah.
Right? Is like the shielding the contributing, right? Because I think too, I think people think I'm just logistics, and I'm like, no, I see in every way the beginning of The Perfect Neighbor that everyone's like, it's so gripping from minute one is me. My director, Geeta, she's an auteur. She's a genius. She wanted a very cinematic, she wanted the shot later where the drone kind of places you in the neighborhood. And I was like, we really need to do this. And she said, okay, I'm going to ask Sam Pollard, our other producer, our other partner at Message Pictures. I'm going to ask Sam. Sam said, Alisa's right. She said, I'm going to ask Sam Bisbee, our other producer. And then everybody, and she's like, okay, that's a good director. You're not going to maybe just take my word for it.
Yeah.
At first my feelings are hurt. I'm like, okay, why don't you just trust me? But, and everybody said that was right. But that's my creative contribution to it, right? One of them. Oftentimes when I'm a showrunner, I'm like, especially if there's more than one director, I'm kind of like, I have the ultimate POV here.
Yeah.
I'm the holder of it, right? In the case like KATRINA, Come Hell and High Water, we have three genius directors, Geeta Gandbhir, Samantha Knowles, and Spike Lee. The point of view needs to be the same.
Right.
Right? The way we come to it feel free to put your own stamp, but we need to be saying the same thing. And so ultimately, that's me holding the point of view and being the gauge along with them, saying like, does this really, I'm losing my words because I'm so tired, but does this actually support?
Right.
The overall vision.
Right?
Yeah.
Sure. Is the through line clear, and is the audience going to ride with us all the way through this thing?
And then also approach, right? We are, and I said this yesterday, I think what my contribution mostly is as a producer, but also partner at Message Pictures, is really saying it is important for us to push the form of documentary.
Yes.
Right? And I was very big. If you see any interview with me on the road, I was constantly like, this is a narrative piece.
Yes.
And I believe strongly that documentary is narrative storytelling. And so it is either scripted or unscripted. And I think that that's my real contribution in a way. I hope that people will see that I'm really trying to push the form forward in all of my work. If you look at Between the World and you stamped from the beginning, The Perfect Neighbor, KATRINA, Come Hell and High Water, it's really trying to do this immersive, innovative work.
Yeah. It's a creative nonfiction.
Yeah.
You mentioned limitations and boundaries and overcoming. We have the limitation and boundary of this lab is officially starting in 1 minute. Now, Sharon gave me the high sign that we can take 5 minutes to wrap up. Obviously, I know I'm speaking for Ben here. We would love talking with you for another hour and a half.
Easily. We haven't even scratched the surface.
Stories for days. You're making our job super easy. We haven't asked a single question, but we do have to round out and unfortunately call it into this so that we can go do our job for the day. But before we round out, what is kind of like the driving, you just said like, I called it creative nonfiction. You said pushing the form, pushing the boundaries, and also your and our shared opinion that narrative filmmaking doesn't mean scripted.
Yeah.
It means story with a beginning, middle, and end, story that's propulsive and drives you through with character. Is there a philosophy that kind of drives you beyond that, or is that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to what I said to my parents, right? I think ultimately, first and foremost, I want to give people a seat at the table, right? It's never lost on me that I'm usually the only Black person in the room, right? And so trying to make opportunity for other people so that is not the case. And I'm happy to see this year in the Oscars, there was 70 women out of 200, and I forget the number, 41. There was 70 women, which was a big spike of nominees, right? So I think my philosophy is really I want to make film more equitable. We all have stories to tell and we're all worthwhile. Those stories are all worthwhile. And then what we do, and I said this yesterday in our lab, at a time when history is being erased, at a time when journalism is no longer unbiased or can be trusted to tell the truth, it is documentarians' job to retell and correct the historical record. We'll be doing documentary for a long time. When we look back on this time, we probably will not be using a lot of news archival as fact. We'll probably be using it to show the fiction. But our work that we are doing around that will be the factual
The
record,
counterbalance.
right?
Yeah.
And so it's like what we say, we are restoring the historical record. And so I think my philosophy is trying to democratize it, but also to keep the truth in storytelling. And so I hope that I'll be doing that and to push the form forward. Because the other thing is, we're competing with people who have computers in their pockets. Now we're wearing computers on our eyes with meta glasses. And so we want to make sure that our projects are being seen. Again, the director doesn't really care much. Alas, as a producer, I want to make sure that what we do gets seen. It is so important and gets seen.
Let's start walking this way. I know we have a lightning round that we usually do at the end of our episode.
We'll walk in lightning round.
We'll walk in lightning
Yes,
round.
let's
Here we
do
go.
it.
All right.
What was the gateway drug documentary that you saw that made you want to make documentary?
Besides Queen Latifah.
The gateway drug. I really loved, and this was a full circle moment for me when the levees broke. My sister was a Tulane law student at the time.
Mm-hmm.
She was the first class to graduate after Hurricane Katrina, so I was both in it and outside of it. And so when the levees broke, showed me that you could go on right away. You can get in there and retell this news. It's calling these victims looters and thieves and thugs. And
Welcome to Doc
immediately revise the historical record. And it's full circle because I later worked with Spike Lee on Katrina Come Hell and High Water.
And Sam Pollard.
And Geeta Gandbhir, who all worked on the original. And I was also able to, Soledad O'Brien came and said, people were making up news.
Wow.
It's on Netflix now. You can watch it. And then the other part of it is I did a film that quickly, in between the world and me, got on the ground and told the story of 2020 pandemic and George Floyd.
Amazing.
All right, last question, and then we're going to walk in and just say hi to the group.
Great.
What advice do you have for emerging filmmakers? I feel like this whole episode is chock full of like grabbable bites and so many title options for us. But what advice, in a nutshell, do you have?
Be yourself. Take your gifts. When I didn't go to film school, as I said. And so I had to learn. But people always said, Alisa, you were always a producer. I was producing a lot for my younger siblings. I constantly use everything. Of the second daughter. I'm the second oldest child in a 4-child family, and I'm the first daughter. So that has responsibility. So I was always responsible for. I was always producing. I'm always doing something.
You've always been like the mama bear. It sounds like. Yeah.
That's right.
And so I was meant to be a
Chief Emotional Officer.
That's right.
Jessica Wolfson, sneaking into Doc Walks once again.
Come up with your peers and make sure that you are supporting you will have a community. Look at Ryan Coogler and Chloe Zhao. They came together and look at what they're doing now. Everyone you meet at the way someone works take them.
Well, what a perfect way to segue to this great community. These are our friends, and this is our community of folks. As Doc Walks episode is coming to an end, here is frequent guests. We were with Alisa.
I'd say it was more sitting than
Yes,
walking.
we took advantage of one of the little podcast studios in the back of the.
Which is way nicer than what we have. So we're very glad to have found it.
We're gonna do. So Holly Herrick, thanks. How are Doc Days going?
Oh, it was a fabulous opening night.
Yes, it was.
And this will, I'm sure, air after it's over.
Yes.
But take notes, be there next year, because there were some unforgettable moments last night, and Doc Days is something not to miss.
That's right. That's right.
Audience of this podcast. Virtual text.
The David Byrne movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a gift from my edit assistant.
True
Sam.
stories, right? Yeah.
All right, we're working our way around the room as we. Not at all. She's Chad Wallin, one of the participants in the Doc Intensive. How's it going, Chad?
Good.
Yeah.
How you doing today?
I'm doing all right. I'm excited. You feel a little pressure off? You presented your film yesterday.
Yeah, I tried my sample. I got a lot of good feedback, and we're doing some one-on-one stuff today, so I think it's going to go well. It'll be
Great.
helpful.
Excellent. There's Sharon Arteaga, who has been keeping us moving on task. She is the power behind things. Look at her. She's holding her little
also the
clock.
one being like, get out of
And
here.
she's letting us
Wrap
know
this
we
up.
are invading
Yes.
the clock already. Lauren Santucci is presenting her short film today. Are you excited? Nervous? Anxious?
I'm actually not that anxious. I don't know why.
All right, we'll work on that. Over there, you see our Doc Walks guest, former guest Megan Gilbride, and future guest Ben Wu. There's Amy Martinez and Doc Walks' former guest and cameo pop-in multiple times, Chelsea Hernandez, who's everywhere. Everywhere I turn, there's Chelsea. How you doing today, Amy?
Good.
Yeah, you still feeling good about yesterday?
I'm feeling great about yesterday, honestly.
These two have a film that they are working on, currently entitled School of Hope, but I'd love to talk more about that title.
Yes.
All right, well, we're day 2 into a 3-day process. And over here, Kenya Gillespie, who is former UT MFA student and freelance filmmaker here in Austin, presenting his feature film. Is this a documentary feature debut?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm very excited about this.
Great. Well, the Doc Intensive is, one of my favorite events the whole year. You can see it's got this nice big sign. We're going to be shooting an episode here tomorrow. I'm going to be interviewing Barlow Jacobs. And obviously, like everything that we do in this community, it is based on and inspired by the Austin Film Society. We're going to wrap it up here, Ben.
Yes, we are. As usual, we drag out the endings way too long.
Oh, is that what we did?
Yeah, that's what that's what just happened. So I think everybody's looking at us to say cut.
They're waiting for that. Thank you, Alisa.
Thank you.
And this is Yoni Galiev. We
Thank
didn't
you.
get a chance to spend time together.
We'll walk together some other time.
We're going to figure it out in New York, maybe. Okay. All right.
Awesome.
And with that, thank you, Ben.
Thank you, Keith. Let's cut.
You, Doc Intensive. Next time on Doc Walks, we round out our coverage of the Austin Film Society Documentary Intensive and Doc Days with a one-on-one sit-down with visiting filmmaker Barlow Jacobs. Barlow is here to present his shot on 16 millimeter intensive look at a 9-day elk hunt in the American West, The Voyage Out. And we get deep on the ins, the outs, and the what have yous, all about this special film. So please come back next week. Ben's got the week off. I'm giving my feet a rest, and Barlow and I are grabbing a couple chairs and talking to the fellows at the AFS Doc Intensive all about The Voyage Out. Doc Walks is created, produced, and edited by my friend Ben Steinbauer of The Bear.
Hello. And my friend Keith Maitland of Go Valley.
Thanks for tuning in.
Follow us at DocWalksPod on Instagram, X, and YouTube.